clash of ideas. The Alps' geology and scientific revolutions. The European Alps. These majestic mountains resulted from an incredibly powerful collision between Africa and Europe. But hidden among these peaks and valleys are stories of other dramatic collisions, these between ideas that have shaped our understanding of planet Earth. Join us as we visit the fascinating places where theories were tested, disputes were settled, and scientific revolutions played out. Episode 1: Galileo and the Craters of the Moon.
We are in Venice, at the foothills of the Alps. In the summer of 1609, a man walks anxiously across this very square, directed towards the high bell tower of San Marco. He brings with him a precious instrument, which is about to show to a group of wealthy noblemen. The man is Galileo Galilei, and the instrument is a telescope. Galileo caught word that Flemish glass workers were creating instruments that make distant objects look closer than they actually are. He thought that if he could build a successful copy and show its potential military applications, he might get a substantial increase in salary from his employer, the Republic of Venice.
Galileo's hopes were not disappointed. His demonstration from the bell tower showed that distant ships, buildings, and movements of people could be seen more clearly with his telescope than with unaided eyesight. The Venetian Senate reacted with enthusiasm, and Galileo was offered a new contract, doubling his salary.
However, it was back home, near the prestigious University of Padua, where he thought that Galileo showed his telescope's true potential. In the courtyard of his house, located behind this door, Galileo did something that would change the course of history. On a crisp evening of 1609, he pointed his telescope at the sky.
That night, and many others in the following months, Galileo carefully observed and skillfully recorded things no one had seen before. His attention was first directed at the moon, the largest object in the night sky. As his drawings show, Galileo focused on the border between the dark and bright sides of the moon. He wrote,
"The boundary which divides the part in shadow from the shining part does not extend continuously in an ellipse, as would happen in the case of a perfectly spherical body, but it is marked out by an irregular, uneven, and very wavy line."
This finding, combined with other observations about how shadows and bright spots were distributed on the lunar surface, eventually led Galileo to assert,
"I feel sure that the surface of the moon is not perfectly smooth, free from inequalities, and exactly spherical, as a large school of philosophers considers with regards to the moon and other heavenly bodies, but that, on the contrary, it is full of inequalities, uneven, full of hollows and protuberances, just like the surface of the earth itself, which is varied everywhere by lofty mountains and deep valleys."
This was a revolutionary conclusion. The standard model at the time, based on Aristotle's philosophy, held that there was a fundamental distinction between heavenly bodies, perfect and immutable, and earthly matter subject to change and decay. by showing that the moon is not a perfect sphere. Galileo broke the distinction between an imperfect earth and heavenly body, and this makes him the father of planetary geology.
Jesuit scholars who scrupulously guarded the doctrines of the Catholic Church initially welcomed Galileo's findings well. Opposition came from academics who felt threatened by this new way of seeing things. But what was really at stake were the teachings of Aristotle, not those of the Bible.
The Bible is not antagonistic to the quest for discovery in nature. In fact, learning about the cosmos is presented as a way to understand more about God and ourselves. In the Psalms, we read,
When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him?
Sometimes the path to better understandings of our world is challenging, as Galileo experienced. But I believe the Bible encourages us to expect God's creation to be infinitely beautiful, infinitely fascinating, and infinitely interesting.